Hey guys, hello everyone, and welcome to the Creators Mastermind Haven. My name is Jeneth Blackert, and I am your host during this event. I've got some really cool announcements coming, and one of the announcements is there are 10 code words like Easter eggs hidden out through this event. Today's word is consciousness. No, it's just conscious. Sorry, not consciousness, just conscious. If you collect all 10 and can make sort of a sentence out of them, then send it to us. We'll give you a huge prize from both my business at jeneth.com and the Creators Mastermind Haven. So that just wanted to start that way. I've mixed them up. Sometimes the codes are like right in the middle, but I thought I'd put this one out before I forget. There will be reminders at the end. Today, Megan and I are talking about the frequency that creates. So let me tell you a little bit about her. I've worked with her for about seven years. We've collaborated. We did a course together. We talk about whisper mapping. A lot of our philosophy is on how we create organically in this world through the whispers of oneness are very much the same. She is one of my favorite people in the world, and it's really an honor to bring her to this group. So Megan, welcome.
Thank you, Jeneth. That just makes me so excited. It makes me think of all the conversations we've had about creation that just expand and light me up, because not very many people are having conversations about creation in the way that we do.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of noise out there, but what you're supposed to do and all of that. And my conversations with you are so gold. Like it always expands and creates more. So I'm super excited to be here with you.
It's almost a namaste because it's a mutual feeling. Whenever we talk, it seems like something expands. So one of the things we talked for some pre-call. And one of the things that we really talked about that I felt was important for us to address are things like I am statements and the energy of rejecting the I am statement. I was telling you that within hypnosis, you have to be in that alpha state for those suggestions to like sink into your subconscious. And you had a little bit different way to talk about it. Let's start there and see where we go.
Well, like when The Secret came out, I think it was really great for consciousness because those ideas just had not hit mass at all. That we were all out over here going, I think there's something else, right? But I think because it hit mass consciousness, I think people grabbed it in this particular way, in a very surface way. And it's like, oh, I just have to say, I am this, I am that, and it'll happen. But what was going on and what I saw is that people were fighting themselves. Like, I am a millionaire, but they weren't, and so there was this, like, you talk about frequency, that puts a friction in the frequency. You get off, that's not a clear radio signal when you're like, I am, and some part of you, you're fighting with another part of you. And so I started using it. Having said that, I used affirmations in a certain way. I learned to bring them into my body and to learn how to feel them as like an energy, as a frequency, as opposed to looking for a physical result to justify that I could say that, if that made sense.
Let's talk about that. Yeah. How did you really bring some of those frequencies in your body and become them, as opposed to just trying to force yourself to believe it, convince yourself? One of the things, I had journals and journals when I moved out of corporate and went crazy with this big nest egg, and I went into this like massive debt. I think you know this story. Like my first couple of years of business, and my husband basically was like, no, you have to, or you have to get a day job, which a day job was just that death sentence. And so I started writing more like, money comes to me fast, frequent, and in abundance. And then I just write it. And I don't know if that convinced me or just the damn will that I had to get up the grit and the gumption to make this happen. But I started writing it out that way because that was actually something I could receive. like that subtlety instead
Mm-hmm.
of that force. Like I couldn't go, I'm a millionaire, because
Mm-hmm.
you're right, I wasn't. And I think my energy would, especially back then, have rejected that.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you did a piece of what I did, which is to find statements that you can go, I'm not going to fight that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I believe that it can come this way. I believe that it is coming. And if I focus on, you know, gratitude and the things that are happening, then I can kind of grease that wheel. And so, like, that's part of it, is phrasing it in a way that you can really feel it and that. But I actually had learned, my first modality was called rapid eye therapy, and there was a tool that they gave us called intention circles, which I think they, having then later studied NLP, I think maybe part of it came from NLP, which is, I think they called it a circle of excellence in NLP. And what it was is you drew a circle on the ground, and then you threw the energy of the things that you were wanting to create, like physically into it.
Fun.
So you were building like a 3D version of yourself. And I teach this a
Mm-hmm.
lot still, like different versions of it. I used to play music so I could get really into the energy, and I would phrase things in a way that didn't feel like a lie to me. Like, I am attracting, I am bringing forward, I'm making myself visible to new clients, like those kinds of things, right? And also things that I actually I'm taking the action steps, right? Like, I was holding the space for me to go forward in this particular way. So after you put all the energy in, and you hop into it, so you're building a hologram of yourself in this future. And then what you do is you literally
Fun.
reach down and you pull the energy up, like you're pulling on a piece of a pair of pants or overalls or something, and you pull it all the way up so that you can feel yourself basking in the energy of what you are creating, in the
Mm-hmm.
process of creating. And then you bring it all into your heart, and then you blow it out of you let go of attachment. This is what I'm creating.
Yeah.
And it's your invitation for the universe to play with you. So as a body exercise, and I'm very kinesthetic, and I could not get it mentally and doing it just mentally. But I also believe, like, I've been in this dealio 3 decades now, and I know for myself, but I think for most of us, if we're not embodying what we're asking for, or we're not embodying the frequency of what we want to create, then the signal is weak. But if you can
Mm.
feel it and it's in your whole body, and you're like, yeah, I'm doing this, like, you are organizing the molecules of the universe in your favor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, gosh, that's very
Mm-hmm.
fun. Oftentimes in a visualization or meditation, like if I just have a lot of noise, I will go, like I will imagine
Mm.
myself doing that. And
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't think that it would work. I think that
Mm-hmm.
there's people are like, but I can't let it go. I
Mm-hmm.
have to keep all this. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes if I, like in the middle of the night, when I'm thinking about what I have to do or make sure that I get this out tomorrow, I can
Mm-hmm.
simply, and maybe this takes practice, but I can simply go, no, it's not time. I'll recall this tomorrow, you know? And it seems to clear it most of the time, unless it's more like a worry thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think these little rituals you talk about, you wouldn't think it would do much, but the way
Mm,
that I see rituals is like how I see training wheels.
mm,
It's a space holding, it's a way for us to focus energy. I think sometimes people make the ritual the significant thing, and it isn't. It doesn't really matter what it is that helps you bring the energy in, that helps you focus. What I know for sure, like, I did kind of move away from affirmation into question, and I really love question, and I use affirmations with my client to bring up the
mm.
crap that's in the way. like like I have them say the thing that they are afraid to be or whatever, then let all the stuff come up, right? But like, when I do a process with a client, or I teach a process in a class, um, it's really about a way to focus the energy, because at the end of the day, what I know for sure, Jeneth, is what we focus on expands. And whatever tool you use to help you focus on the things that you're desiring to create, the things that are expansive, and
Yeah.
not the things that are crappy, right? Like, how much
What's the
attention you give.
caveat though with it, right?
Mhm.
you may be focused on it, but it has to be in the way of the frequency match.
Right.
Right?
Yes. Resonance. I call that
Yeah.
resonance. When
Yeah.
my intention wave is strong, there's no counter currents running in my intention wave. And the counter currents could be an unconscious belief. The counter currents could be, I'm not in a full yes, or maybe I'm overriding my no. Like, those are ways that we can kind of create this counter signal. But if I'm like all in and I'm like full yes, like full yes is like real sexy to the universe. It's like, oh yeah, that we got a player. We got a player on aisle 4,
Right.
And
Let me
so,
just sprinkle all the inspiration drops on her. It's like, no wonder we're like, I've got an idea for this. I got, the ones that of us, I think, that take hold. It's like, this is too much. I'm not ready for more.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, if what your intention wave is embodied and it's aligned, then that wave goes and meets waves of similar frequency. Everything is about resonance. Like, how do you know that you're resonating with what you're asking for? You will see signs of it coming in. It doesn't necessarily mean it's here yet, but you will feel aligned. Things will start moving, right? If you're aligned, if your intention wave is matching the waves in the universe that most closely align with that, you'll feel it, you'll know it. And even like, I don't know, there's times where I'm building something and I'm like, ugh, is it ever gonna happen? And like, that's when my wave isn't clear. That's when I'm not, because I can be like months away from the actualization of something, but feel super aligned. Everything's coming together. You can feel the divine timing of it. It's not about, it's not happening yet. It's about the sort of whisper, feeling those whispers coming, feeling yourself like receiving those whispers and acting on those whispers. And you just know, like, whatever else is happening, this is the path. And that's how you know that your intention waves are clear.
Yeah, well, and we talked a little bit about, I love this topic too, about becoming that frequency of manifesting. And then, and then you go into doubt, or you're like, oh, this isn't working. And we just kind of kill all the seeds that we've planted in the frequency field, right?
Right.
Yeah. And I know you've got a few ways that you remember to stay in it, and a few ways that, but what do you think that is some of the best practices to stay in a frequency of, let's just say, money or abundance? Because I think that that's a big one, especially for some of the creativepreneurs.
Right. I would say questions, like, because what's happening when we go, this isn't working, is we're in a conclusion. We're in a concluded reality. And so, I remember forever ago reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. The one thing that I took from it was, he said the 3 laziest words in the English language are "I can't afford," because it just goes. Then there's no opening of your creative mind. And he said, even just how can I afford, it changes you back into that creative flow again. And so for me, when I notice I have stinky thinky like that, it's like, okay, how can I use what's happening right now to my advantage? What if this was what I'm asking for coming in a different way? What if, what's right about this, right? Like, all of those kind of things. That what I love about questions is they can redirect, and it can take you out of that clunk, right? I don't know. I don't know very many people who never have a doubt, who never have a negative thought. And I see people on the other side of it, like, they're so scared to have a negative thought about a thing that they'll suppress it into the unconscious. So their unconscious is putting out that vibe, even though they're like, they're even like talking perfectly. And
those are the worst people, that whole facade. I mean, it's sort of like the people that are incredibly depressed, but they smile all the time.
Yeah. Yep.
It's so
Yep.
good to see you. I mean, you know that it comes from this like almost like performance, like they're acting.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're going to be putting out weird signals, like
Yeah.
conflicting signals. I would say that I call them counter commitments or conflicting realities, right? And so the universe is like, I'm really not sure what you're asking for. Be like calling dominoes and going, well, I want pepperoni. No, I want vegetarian. No, I want pepperoni. It's like,
Yeah.
because
Or
the
even the
cat,
wrong number.
right?
Or even the wrong number, right? You
Mm.
know, it's like, oops, I thought it was a 6 at the end instead of a 7.
Right, right. And so you're that one bit of frequency off, right? And
Yeah.
instead of like going, oh, it's over, this isn't going to happen, that thought might come, but it's like, okay, what am I not seeing here? Or what are the other possibilities? Like what if what I'm looking for is right around the corner, right? So it's just like, because when we say this isn't working, I'm in this point, I'm in this solid point and there's nothing else there. But if I look just around the corner, I look up here, I'll look over here, I might find something that will allow me to connect back into those whispers again. Here's the dealio. If it were simple and if it were easy, everybody would do it and everybody would have what they want 100% of the time. I think part of the game we're playing on planet Earth is really like discovering who we are as creators and how it is that we create. Like nobody else can tell you how you create. Like we can look at affirmations or questions or frequency work and we can like, oh, that resonates, that, and we can like, this is what I've done over the time that I've been doing this work is like I just kind of pull in what resonates in that moment, and then sometimes it's like I need something else now. And so like I think it's really what I see happening now in the personal growth and development movement is everybody's like, oh, I don't do affirmations anymore, oh, I don't do that anymore, and it's like they make it wrong, but it worked until it didn't.
Yeah.
And then something, and when that happens, it's because there's some other awareness, consciousness, or principle that's trying to be revealed to you. It's now time to incorporate that, right? It's like our bodies, my body is not the same as it was when I was 17. Like it acts different now. Like, and we expect that we're have a formula that's going to work for decades. And it's like, it's kind of not realistic.
Or maybe we've grown
Right.
past those as well. I think that there's that worked on the surface layer, and now it's time to go a little bit deeper because we've cleared a lot, and we really are more. I know both of us are just like obsessed with creation, for
Mhm.
the lack of a better word. I mean, in helping others, people really get how to be in the flow instead of
Mhm.
this like force and this fight. And like I was telling you on the pre-call, I used to be massive action. And
Mhm.
it used to be exhausting because I'd take this massive action and then sometimes it wouldn't pan out. So then I'd
Mhm.
be like, well, that didn't work. Let's do another thing of massive action. And I mean, it brought me success. But by the time I really became successful, it was more my head changed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And it's like it works until it doesn't, or it works until it's like, okay, that was one phase or stage. It's kind of like, what worked in kindergarten sometimes doesn't work in high school. Like when you're looking for the milk and cookies and the nap time in high school, that's probably not there anymore. But it really works when you're in kindergarten, to have that
Yeah.
break or in that way, right? And
Yeah.
so it's like, I think that I think part of why we popped into this world, like I am a creationist at heart, and I'm like, we came here to learn who we were as creators. And so, if we're hanging out in the cosmos and everything's perfect and we're being fed grapes by really cute people and we get everything we want all the time, 24/7. After 7 trillion years, you might go, okay, I'd like to try something else. Now I'm a little bored. And so we created the earth, and now we're here having this sort of illusion of lack or separation or not getting. And we're learning how to hone in creation in an embodied way. And I think it's a beautiful experiment. And like, I think we get too hard on ourselves, or we try to force results, and that means we're a good creator, instead of like, are you happy? Are you loving your flow and your jam? That's great that you want to create this big business and everything, but are you enjoying the process? Because the truth is that the tadas, oh, I created a 7-figure business. Okay, now what?
But
Like that.
you know, I had a 7-figure business, and I'm like, hell no, this isn't a bitch. I mean, it like owned me, and
Right.
you know, I had to keep doing it because I had these people working for me, and it was like they had families, they had to have this income. I couldn't just pull the carpet away 1 month, right? We're not working this month, you guys. And I really decided it was best for me to scale back. And I'm so much happier now, and I'm free and just feel free. Now, do I maybe want that again in a different way? Probably. Yeah, I don't know what that looks like yet. You know, right now I'm just like, you know, let's just follow the moment and create this beautiful community of creatives. Yeah.
Yes. And
Yeah.
to me, because the outcomes are only these little moments on the timeline, like, ta-da, I did that. Okay.
Yeah, and then it's a conclusion. It's
right.
like, you know, I've mentioned several times I hate the word potential because it's a stopper. You know, wouldn't you much rather go into possibilities instead of reaching your potential? And, you know, we've know what a goal is, you know, a big damn jail. You know,
Big
it's
damn
great. It's
jail.
great to have goals, but as soon as you reach them, I think you need to
Yeah.
recalibrate and say,
Right.
now the next one is
Right.
like at the same day. I don't think it's just good. Oh, I did it.
Right.
You know, I just think that that's going to take you backwards always.
Well, if you could think about the points of I achieved the thing, they're like few and far between. Most of life is the path. I can't get into the picture here. The path between
Let me
the
put you in the picture.
There you go. The path between the 2 points. So if the only time you're happy is when you hit the point of result, then you're not going to be happy very much, because most of life is lived here. So for me, the
only like once in every 2 years you get to actually celebrate.
you know, which is why I think you have to celebrate every day. When I believe that was the beauty of our whisper mapping, because it was about like being in that yummy vibrating frequency of creation moment to moment, and following and not pushing and forcing and, you know, wiping ourselves out, but that the process of creation was joyful. If the process of creation is joyful, then you have less attachment to results. And we know this is manifesting one-on-one. If you're attached to result, you push it away. If you're having so much fun creating, you don't kind of worry about the results, but then the results can happen so much faster. It's kind of this really cool thing that happens if you can have a freaking good time on the way to whatever it is that you're creating, so that the creation itself becomes the joy. And then your frequency, the waves, the intentions, the requests that you are putting into the universe, very resonant tone. You know, I was actually listening to a singer who was talking about creation verse in terms of resonance and voice and all of that, it was really fascinating, because it's all the stuff we're talking about, but with voice. And what she said is like, when somebody is really clear, there's nothing conflicting, they're not holding anything back, a singer, and they sing that perfect note. And she says, when it resonates, then there's a fullness, and the note becomes more than itself. It goes out into the universe in a very different way. And I really was like, that's what creation is, when we do it from the joy of it, from the whispers, from that resonant place of like, oh, I love the process of what I'm creating. And so we attract more ease, more joy, and more fun along the way. And, and then it's like, oh, you didn't realize when you turn 7 figures. It doesn't become a stopping point because it's a no big deal because you're having fun.
That literally happened to me. The year that we made 1.2, I actually made 7 figures the first week of October, and I didn't know it until the end of the year. And then I was just like, well, I guess I should start wrapping everything up for the tax dude. And and it was like, wow, that just like bypassed me entirely, which was kind of a cool awareness at the end. But basically, I
Yeah.
was just too busy to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not
Yeah.
to say that, as entrepreneurs, is what the phrase that we coined, I think you coined it, the creatorpreneurs, right? The creatorpreneurs, we have like creativity is our jam. Like we gotta do it, we gotta be it. And like the more that there are going to be moments when you're running your own show, there's parts of it that you don't love per se. It's not necessarily you're going to have a joy in every task, but the more that you're willing to listen to the whispers and find your flow of creation, the more you're going to find the resources and be able to have the resources to bring in the people who are good at that do love that, and it does come together. It's not that there's no challenges, it's just that you play with them differently in this space of you're on the way to something fun, and oh, by the way, you're having such a lovely time, you're not really attached to the outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's funny when I think of creation, I often think of it as uh like this fun thing,
Mhm.
right? And it's usually like the beginnings of something. It's super fun
Mhm.
when and then when you get in the grunt of it and you realize, ah, now I gotta get this done. I gotta get this done. Gotta upload, download, that's when I
Mhm.
have to get out of it because it
Mhm.
drains me and it
Mhm.
drains my frequency. It becomes less fun.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's part of you knowing who you are as a creator. Like you're the launcher, you're the visioner, you're the generator, right? You're not the detail, nuts and bolts thing.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and not making that wrong. I know so many people that make themselves wrong for starting and being so excited and then going, like at that part you're talking about. It's like, that's just not your part. Okay. Like, what are the creative solutions to getting support in this part that isn't really your jam,
Yeah.
and how do you make that happen? And so those are all part of the fun questions and the fun processes on the way to creation.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about whisper mapping and question, like how the rhythm works with following the questions and not never coming to a conclusion and just keep going and going and going.
Hmm. I don't know if that I have shared this with you since we put the program on, but the question that I most often start with is, how does this want to be created? Because what I
Mm.
notice for myself is that different projects require different things. And so, there's maybe something different that I need to, a different way I need to show up in this particular project. So I start with that question. And what questions do is they sort of organize matter and intelligence, right? So it's like, I think of questions like a Google search engine, right? And our brains are very much like that. The universe is very much like that. It will only show us the parameters we've put in, right? So if you're buying a house and you don't think you want to live in this area, but you don't think you can afford it, and you don't put that in your search, then it's not going to show you if there's a house there and the price point that you wanted. So the questions from whisper mapping are so important that the frames of them are like spacious enough, open enough, but directed enough so that the intelligence that begins to organize itself can be clear for you. So you can actually get that download of the energy. And what we're calling, that's what I call the whispers, is that we tell the universe, hey, universe, I'd really like this. What would it take? Right? Or however you're asking that question. And then the universe gets to work. It's like, oh, she kind of wants that. Okay, let's organize some things. And then all of a sudden, and sometimes it can be right when we ask the question, it can be really fast where we go, oh, I need to call so-and-so. Right? Or sometimes nothing comes for a few days. Well, maybe there's some other questions we can ask. But that's how the way that whisper mapping works for me is it starts with that question, because the question starts percolating that universal search engine. And then all of a sudden you start getting hits, just like in the Google engine, you get like 471 hits, which is why you have to keep asking questions, because you have to keep kind of narrowing the search enough so that you can really dial in the whispers, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I used to I think we've talked about this where I'd take the business and, like, first it seemed like it was a part of me until, like, it would just kinda go away from me,
Yeah.
and then it became its own little entity that I got to talk to like I'm talking to you. It's like, "Okay, creator mastermind Haven, what do you require next, or what do you desire next?" And sometimes it almost seems like the information comes in before I even ask the question. It's yeah. It's like, I
Yes.
mean, it was very clear that when I started this, I didn't know that, I had an idea that I wanted all women, but I wasn't sure. And it just started honing itself down. And then I thought, I didn't know if I was gonna do a live series after, but now I know. It's just like different things, and, that just keep awakening with it is quite beautiful. It's like a journey or a quest instead of like a force or a fight, like a lot of people do in this reality, or an exhaustion, right?
And I would say that's another element that I've added to whisper mapping is
Mm,
I literally create quests for myself. And I
mm,
actually did a program a couple years ago called Quests, and
mm,
I had people asking questions and essentially doing some of the creative processes that we talked about, but from a position of different avatars. Like, okay, so well, if Peter Pan was asking this question,
mhm.
what information would Peter Pan get? And so
Nice.
it was a
Yeah.
way to access different archetypes, and different things. Because in the world of creativity, perspective is everything, right? If we're only in our own heads all the time, we have to
Yeah.
do things to allow ourselves to see things in new ways.
Well, it could also be somebody who's incredibly successful that you really admire, that you want to,
Hmm.
I'm not saying, like, be them. I'm just saying maybe step into their archetype or their avatar for a second and say, how might they choose
Yes.
from that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because some of my clients do this. What would Megan do? you know,
Right.
right?
I'm sure I've had clients
What,
like that too.
what would Richard Branson do? Like
Yeah.
what would Oprah do? But not to be them or to outsource some kind of power, but to access a different frame,
Mhm.
to access a different energy or perspective. Because a lot of times when we get stuck in the creative process, it's because we're stuck in the avatar called I have to work hard or something inside of ourselves, and we just
Mm.
need to tap a different part of us. So
Absolutely.
yeah. And so
Yeah.
like, what if creation was a quest? It's like, okay, well, who are my allies, right? That's one of the first things that
Mm.
happens in a quest, is you gather your allies, right? And it's like,
Mhm.
okay, what are we, where are we going? Where are we going? We don't know what we're going to have to face along the way. Where like you think about the big quest movies, like Lord of the Rings and stuff like that, right? It's like, there's like you never know when a dragon's going to come. You got to get to the ring, but like the whole part is like becoming more of yourself and accessing more of your power as you meet each challenge. And like when you can look at it that way, you can kind of get out of this sort of idea of right, wrong. And it's like, okay, there's a challenge. Like so many people give up, and so many people go, oh, I'm not meant for that.
Mm.
Like, no, like this is a quest, dude. The dragon always comes in at this point. What are you going to do? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny, I've been into one of your live events and you do use the body a lot.
Mm.
It's not all head or meditation. Do you want to talk about some of the tools and the practices you do that really create change and mostly change in perspective?
Mm. That's a big question because there's like in my live events. I mean, I've been doing sort of what I would call body centered workshops for so long that
Mm,
I literally create body processes in the moment. There's not like oh, and this body, there are some like that I've done for a long time. But a lot of times, because I know how to focus energy through the body, that it just comes to me what's going to work in that moment.
mm,
For myself, like what I know is like if I'm freaking sitting at the laptop and I'm getting stupid, that I need to get there's my energy stuck somewhere. When you have pain in your body, it's because you have actually potential energy that's locked up, and you can actually start accessing that energy as creativity. And a
mm.
lot of the
Love that.
practice I've been doing to liberate that as of late, I've been really into qigong the last couple of years. It really helped me through a really bad illness several years ago, and it brought me back to life, brought me back
Mm,
from the dead. But I've been using it a lot for creation because what it does is it activates the meridians and it moves energy through the body. And one of the things that I did a program in the last couple of months I just called it Mornings with Megs. But what I saw was there was all these people who are doing like morning routines and stuff, right? They were like, okay, well, you get up and you do 10 push-ups and then you journal and then like 2 hours later, right? And I was like, oh my God, like I am never going to do that. But I do know the value of turning your energy on and up and the value of getting clear about where you're directing your energy. And
mhm,
so I've been creating this whole thing where I do either qigong or some kind of breath work or movement, uh, and spontaneous movement to turn the energy up that runs through our bodies,
mm,
and then then use your manifesting techniques, then use your creative techniques, because you actually have physical energy and more energy, because E equals MC squared. The more energy you have access to, the more powerful your creation is going to be. So a lot of
mm.
people are doing their affirmations or questions or prayer or whatever in like this kind of mode. For me, I get my body lit up and turned on, and then I go, what do I want to create today? Because then I have all this energy and aliveness, and my signal is going to be really clear from that place and going to have an embodied signal, right? And
Mhm,
so, and these routines, some of them I do in like 5 minutes. I don't have
mhm,
2 hours, like like. And I think energetics, those of us who are energetic creators, are kind of like that. It's like for me to sit and do the same thing every morning for 2 hours, like shoot me now, but it's like but what I see is it's separate. People are either doing physical stuff or they're doing manifesting stuff. Well, I'm bringing them together. I
Yeah.
think I always have in a certain way, because if we're
Mm,
leaving out the body, what's the point? Like, we're kind of here for the body, like as beings, as infinite beings or spirits or whatever that we are in the universe, right? If we weren't on planet Earth, we wouldn't need to do any of that shit. But we're here in body for a reason. There's something that our bodies have for us, and it's like activating it and getting our whole self into something is, I think, where the real fun is.
yeah. Yeah. I think of morning routines as pretty much like, okay, what will make me look and feel my best today?
Hmm.
You know, and uh,
Hmm. Totally.
and it's just and it's not always the same.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, let's talk about the infusions.
Hmm.
You've kind of been coined molecular infusions.
Ooh,
Um, so,
I like it.
and I know that you've got like a special free gift for everyone with infusions of kindness as well. But let's go down the rabbit hole of infusions first.
Okay. Um, when I was studying, I would say like energy techniques. I've been studying it for 28 years ago. I started the Reiki Master Path, and I therapeutic touch, like all these different things. And when I was studying with Dane here through his like energetic synthesis of communion and all of that. I was in one of those classes and I came up to the mic to ask him something, and he goes, "The position of Dane here is taken. Find out what that is for you." And I was like, "Oh, there's something that's unique to me." And I started to look. I started to ask questions. What is that? And like, I know that I got results with clients and things happen in my events that I cannot explain. I cannot explain the dynamic transformation that happens. I've healed people with terminal illnesses. I don't know what that is, but when I started to develop it and I started to play with it more, I called it that because what I became aware of is that I played with molecules. And when I allowed this energy to run through my body, people had altered experiences. They had they would have almost like journey-like experiences, or their sexual energy would get turned on. And so it's basically an activation energy, because I think whatever it is that your body requires to wake up is kind of how you'll feel when I do this infusion stuff. So there's a program that I created a couple of years ago called Creating with Kindness. And I probably created that program as much for me as anybody, because I realized that I was still trying to buy into other people's way of creating that didn't feel good in my body. And so I decided that I was going to make just a full commitment to create my way and to create and to be gentle with myself and not beat myself up and all the things. I created this program for myself and had other people come and play with me. And in the program, I created these infusions for every day in the program. So I have these 30 infusions that I created for part 1 of the program, where they're kindness infusions. So it's ways to shift the ways in which you're putting out cross current signals, right? So it's like calming those counter energies, the negative energies, that judgment and beat up, and really learning how to have your own back through a very deep energetic process / visualization. I don't even know what to call it. And that's when you said, do you have a gift for our group that you could offer? And that's what came to mind, because I feel like if we can create through a kind embodiment, being kind with ourselves and kind with the planet. Like, think about all the people who are out there trying to create results, and then they realize the thing they created actually harms the planet, right? Because they weren't including that in they weren't including the earth and the universe in their process, right? And it's like, when you create from kindness, you really are creating from the kingdom of we. And it starts working for you and everybody else. So that's the gift that I have brought for your people today, is 30 days of kindness infusions.
I love that so much. You guys, the link's below. That brought something up for me when you said that, it's sort of like it's the kingdom of we.
Mm-hmm.
And, I really, really feel that after COVID and kind of going away from an interview series that I had before it, I really felt that there was a part of the me that no longer felt connected in the we as much as it could be. Like, it still was, in the people in the world. And do you want to talk a little bit about how you see the kingdom of we and the communities of, that encourage and create together, like what you have created with your groups and what I'm creating here?
Well, I think that's where we're really going. Like, I think there's been, like, even the Me Too movement, right? Like, to not get into the political realm, but like, there's a me in that, right? It's like, there's a place where the needs of the me have got to be addressed in order to enter the we. Like, I think for a long time, I gave up on my needs to try to help the we, right? And it's like, so we kind of get stuck in that process. But what I ultimately know is that and I've had enough experiences and felt this like tangibly being connected to all things. And we're not separate. Like we're all on this spectrum of consciousness, right? And that the more that we can evolve out of the me and understand that when I'm actually choosing for me, if I'm really aligned with my yes, I'm starting to trust that that serves the we, and that that contributes to the we, right? And so I've been playing a lot in my events, my signature event, Live Your Magic, that I've taken to 4 countries and like 16 cities or something like that. That's where it started to go. There was a lot in the beginning where it was individual magic opening and activating, and then all of a sudden, a few sessions in, a few workshops in, all of a sudden we were creating something as the group. There was a magic that we could access together that was way bigger than just, oh, I have this gift and I have this gift, which is important. It is part of it. But I think that part of the awakening that's happening on the planet is the movement to the we, is the movement from I creation to co-creation, or to collaboration, maybe is a better word. But like, we're so much more potent as the we, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, we know how we collaborate here in this kind of event.
Mhm.
But you see it every day with like Instagrammers who are influencers. They're like, hey, I interviewed one of Jenny Melrose, and she got a brand deal from Neutrogena.
Mm.
And she's like, on camera sharing the various Neutrogena products that she uses every single day, and I know that that seems like, a business kind of money grab or something. I don't know. I don't like saying that, but it contributes to both parts.
Yes.
And whether, one conversation contributes from us to the audience, or one conversation changes you or me or both of us, it's a contribution. And I
Mm-hmm.
think people, I might be wrong in saying this, but I think people have gone away from really seeing themselves as a contribution with all the worthiness crap going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they've aren't able to see people as they are with all their garbage and constructs. They can't see them without it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Often. And, I just thought I would add that, because I think in the kingdom of we, which is more of this oneness vibe that we're all going towards, it's kind
Mm-hmm.
of like me against the world, this reality.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I feel like we have to come to the we if we're going to evolve past the us versus them,
Mm.
which is the sort of cornerstone of wars and all the stuff that's going on. That's like, I can't believe that's happening right now. That comes from me versus you. It's
Mhm.
me or you, right? And being able to see that I think the internet has really given us that perspective of like, we went from our own little towns and our own little countries, unless you had a lot of resources and traveled a lot, but we went like, we really get now that we are all in this together. Like, I think also COVID showed us that in a particular way. There was
Yep.
no part of the earth that was not, you know, dealing with that. We were dealing with it together, and I believe that the more that we can move into that space of, and how can this be a contribution for us all,
Mm.
right? That we heal some of those divides, we heal some of those fears of lack of I'm either going to get my needs met or you, or I'm going to have the resources or you. Well, what's possible when we go to, what resources do we have available together? If I use
Yeah.
my resources and I play with your resources, and what it's like leapfrog. Boop, boop, boop,
Yeah. 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 I think people don't, they're like, it's mine. you know,
And you
and
know
that's
what?
okay.
Well, here's the thing. Well, you know where that comes from, actually? It's a
Like
developmental
a
thing.
2-year-old.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's when we go through something difficult in a particular stage, we get stuck in that stage because we don't get the developmental pieces we need to get. So if some shit goes down at, between 1.5 and 3, that you don't have a me, then you'll spend the rest of your life fighting for the me, right? Because it's unmet need. There's like some part of you trying to get that need met. And so, like, yeah, there's a lot of me wound out there. A lot of me's that didn't get their needs met. That's just why I say that it's important to honor the me, but not at the exclusion of the we. And it doesn't, we played that out so much. It's like the only way I can get my needs met is if you're over there or you don't get your needs met. And it's like, what if that's not true?
Yeah. So
And
much.
I think it's an interesting conversation to have in creation.
Yeah. Agreed.
Right?
Agreed.
Right?
Because, I can just think of so many examples, but let's just leave that where it is. I'm sure we'll have other conversations along this series. You guys, just a couple reminder about Creator Mastermind Haven. We do have a VIP pass. It's a one-time buy. If I do another summit, you get everything. If you'll get everything for this summit, of course. And if I do my live calls, which I am going to do, starting in mid-November, I want you guys to get the audios and the watching of the videos for all that always. So that is a little thing that's extended in most VIP pass. It's like here's 28 of them, and then they stop. But for this case, I want my VIPs to come and ask questions during live calls. So that's why I'm doing that. I want to create a relationship with you in a way. Last thing, I did announce the word code at the beginning. It's conscious. Collect all 10, and we've got a huge bonus for you from my companies. And lastly, I want to remind you about the Facebook page. We're streaming these over there, and I would love to have your comments and your thoughts about what you're thinking from these conversations. What are you thinking about the we, right? The kingdom of we. What are you thinking about these infusions? What are you thinking about these conversations? What questions you have? I would love to hear your feedback and love to see your participation over there. With that being said, I will sign off. Thanks, Megan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeneth. That was so juicy. Bye, everybody.
Bye.